All right, welcome to another episode of the Middle Aged Metalhead. Today we've got regular contributor Abhishek Sen with us, and our topic of discussion today is Metallica's Black Album. So this album just turned 34 this week. I think it was originally released on the 12th of August 1991, and particularly important gateway album for a lot of us. And we thought it would be a good time to talk about this game-changing album and figure out where it stands back then, what its importance is today, and a whole lot of other things. So, hi Abhishek.
Hello, my friend. We meet again. It's been a while. Where should we begin? I think I should start every episode with this. But yeah, but you're right because I think everyone, most of us, were introduced to Metallica through this, be it through MTV or be it like one of the first metal albums that you got. So a very very serious, very important album for many of us, and regardless of how underground or cult we might be. Uh, one cannot deny the impact that a band like a Metallica has had on all of our lives. It's just undeniable. So yeah, I mean, looking forward to chop it up as usual, GK. But so let me just start off this conversation with you. Where were you, and when did you actually discover Black Album, or yeah, and then we can go into how you found Metallica.
So, I remember where I got the cassette from,
Mhm.
and I remember it was 1992, so I was like just about 13, I think.
Right.
But how I heard about Metallica, I have no recollection of that at all. So my wife and I were actually talking about this last night. She was like, "How did you get access to all this when you were in school?" And
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, I had a few seniors who were listening to things." And I
Mhm.
remember that's how I got into Wasp and Creator and a few other bands. But
Mhm.
Metallica, n- I don't remember at all. I think most likely it was around 92 early on. Millennium played a very weird concert called Save the Trees in this club on the outskirts of Bangalore where they
Right.
covered Enter Sandman, right? And they were like, this is a song by Metallica. That was also the first time I heard Countdown to Extinction, now that I think about it. So it
Nice.
was probably 92. And so after that, convinced my dad, as usual, to get the tape for me because I'd seen the tape already, right? Music
Mhm.
India Limited was releasing that album in one of those clunky big plastic boxes that I think
Yeah.
they're called clamshell tapes or whatever. So yeah, got that tape and man, yeah, that just changed the game.
I think I have the tape which I got way back in like 2001, 2-ish, uh, because I think I have gone through the story of how I discovered metal to start with, like, through Maiden and stuff like that. But Metallica was the band, for me. Like, uh, that, aside from Maiden and Priest and all of that, Metallica was the first band whose discography I actually seeked out and I wore them out. And I think I still know every single song back to back, every note, so as to say. So one of the first albums that I did get was Master of Puppets, and at that time I did not understand because it was too fucking heavy. Even at that point, my ears, so as to say, was not trained. And the second album I got was the clamshell version of the Black Album, and I for like at least a year I used to think like this is a greatest hits package, and I went, and that time you did not have internet access and stuff like that. And I used to think, which album is Enter Sandman actually from? Which album is, Wherever I May Roam actually from? Where is Sad But True in the first four albums? And it's only after like, some months that I realized it's all in the same album. And I think, you know, that way, that is, I think, the impact that a lot of young people today too will have. Not in terms of getting that information, but getting that idea around the head that all of these staples, the songs which are so popular now, almost pop culture, mythology kind of feel. I think it all came from one album and something which was heavy. you can't deny the fact that Metallica's self-title is not heavy. It is actually heavy, but it's also extremely accessible.
Yeah.
And I think, it has to do with the fact that the relentless touring and the burnout, especially after the wake of Cliff's death and the way they dealt with, I think, which resulted in And Justice for All and all of that. The mythos is pretty set in stone now. I think that had a major role to play in the way this album ended up sounding. Because if you watch the documentaries as well, the very famous documentary, which I think everyone who is into this kind of music should watch, is 1.5 years in the life of Metallica, where they go through the entire recording process of this album. I think that is a fascinating look at what made the band tick. And even if you see it from a 2025 lens, you will realize that there is no other band which wrote like that or went into these kind of writing techniques. Because everything while they did it together, it was also very disparate and always like, chopped together and coming across at parts. Uh, so I think, there was a lot of production elements also, which I thought was very, very interesting choices, like the drumming. you know, it's a bit of a joke now with Ulrich and all of that stuff. But I don't think I will use any other album to describe the drum sound as lush. But I think that that drum sound is like incredible. And I remember discovering this, and it's an interesting point. Like people in your school used to introduce you to bands. I always saw this scrawled aside from Fear Factory. They had Metallica scrawled and all of that. So I thought it was like a very cool band to check out. And back then, like early 2000s, they still didn't have that stink attached to them now. But yeah, formational band. I mean, there's no other way
Yeah.
to go aside from.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was just incredible experience, and yeah, accessibility, right? I think that's what made it such a fantastic gateway album as well.
Yeah.
Like my other gateway album was Fear of the Dark,
Mhm.
but even with Fear of the Dark, it took me a few listens to really get it. Like, uh, but with Metallica, it was just instant. Yeah, like the minute Enter Sandman opened, I was hooked to that thing. And yeah, one of those albums that I've played so many times that I don't really need to listen to it anymore,
Yeah.
but also something that I always look back on very fondly. Yeah.
Yeah, because see, it's almost like you rightly mentioned, you don't really need to revisit it year on year, but once you play it, it's almost like I need to finish this.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that scene is there because again, these songs are such a huge part of heavy metal's uh, spine, so as to say, because and they are transcendent songs. You have Enter Sandman not playing stadiums and all
Yeah.
for different types of these American football college games and all of that. So very rarely do these get mentioned, or rather, very. I feel at this point of time, it's such a passe. And this album is like spoken about so much that actually no one actually gives it any more flowers. But I feel this album deserves it because if you see the scene as well, I think a lot of bands back then they tried to ape what they were doing, what Metallica was doing, and that's been the case right since Kill 'Em All. Because I remember you and I we had that conversation along with a couple of others as well on the group that which was the very first thrash album,
Mhm.
and for my money it has to be Kill 'Em All. Uh, Dave Mustaine, wrote all of the lyrics. It was his vision, and the others brought it together. But I feel right since then, right to the degree to which they made their sound solely theirs, when by the time 1991 rolled around, I think a lot of other bands also tried to ape it. Like you very famously, Megadeth tried it with. More so than Rust in Peace, but they actually did it in Countdown to Extinction.
Countdown. Yeah.
Yeah, Testament did it with The Return. Exodus also slowed down. Slayer famously slowed down.
Yeah.
Sepultura went a completely different direction.
Mm.
Anthrax did it with Persistence of Time as well.
Persistence. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of those bands also they incorporated a lot of the the German bands went a completely different direction. Creator, Sodom, Destruction, all of those guys. But I think these guys, the American side of it, they actually tried to fit in that Metallica formula because that is what was working.
Yeah. Also, I guess at some level they all wanted the same kind of success also, right?
Yeah,
But I think I don't know. In terms of capturing that formula, I feel like Countdown to Extinction may have come the closest,
yeah.
especially like Symphony of Destruction, like super catchy song. And that album had a lot of catchy songs. But again, I mean, this thing, even with the side B and the deep cuts, like say something like Struggle Within or Off Wolf and Man,
Yeah.
My Friend of Misery,
Mind Visit Friend of Misery.
yeah, those are like some, yeah, still incredibly catchy songs.
I think that has to do with the lyrical aspect of it. I think
Hmm.
when it comes to thrash metal, or I will still say no one writes like Hetfield does.
Yeah.
He is like the peak. The Hetfieldisms in the Black Album are some of the best. Like the the Deepen Hand held back by the Deepen
Hmm.
Nail and stuff like that from Follow the God That Failed. It's
Yeah.
just insane writing, and it's all rooted to some things. And I think this is what differed and made them a lot different from the others of their ilk, especially the big four, the rest of the big three, because all of them were writing about fantastical subjects. They were writing about death, destruction, and all of that. Metallica was writing about mental health. They were writing about the man. They were talking about the government. They were anti-war. So I think all of these factors also they made the music more real. And I think the relentless touring, uh, also played a major role. I mean, we've all seen the live shit gig, man. I mean,
Yeah.
holy shit. Still one of the top five concert videos that I've
Mm.
ever watched. It's just mind blowing. And the speed,
Yeah.
at which they were playing at. It was just insane. Any other memories or associated with the release and the impact that it might have had?
Uh, I think here by then, like the older guys in the scene were already calling it a sellout, and I didn't really know any metalheads of my own age at that time.
Mhm.
So I was like, so yeah, there was a lot of peer pressure
You hate it.
to uh, to hate it, yeah, which is kind of weird, right? I mean, when you think about it, but
Yeah.
that is one thing I still look back at with some puzzlement, I guess. But uh, overall, there were a few people in my school, like maybe two people in my school, honestly. So I used to tell them about Metallica. They would get their whose brothers would listen to metal. So they
Mm.
also started listening. But overall, I think it was by another 3, 4 years, like when I moved into college, and every band that formed, it was a rite of passage to cover one of these songs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like everyone was covering Metallica back then. And I think through the late 90s, early 2000s, Metallica was huge. Like post Black Album, yeah, they were really, really huge.
Because it's interesting that you mentioned this, because even when I got into when even I was discovering the discography and I was speaking to people, even now if you speak to the people, our peers, people we hang out with, they will poo poo the Black Album. At least some of them will. But the fact of the matter is that if you listen to the discography, right from Metal Up Your Ass, right down to the Black Album, this is a band which always was pushing the boundary forward. This is the only direction they could have gone.
Yeah.
That's what I honestly feel. And there is no the the issue that most people have is with the ballad. That's what I
Huh.
personally feel. And the fact that Enter Sandman, Sad But True, it's so overplayed, which I also agree to a degree. Because you go to any pub, even today, if you go to any pub in Bangalore, you will eventually hear a song from that album.
Yeah.
There's no escaping that. I mean, my wife is not into heavy metal at all. She doesn't get it at all. But even she knows Enter Sandman. She knows
Yeah.
Nothing Else Matters.
Mm.
So all of that stuff. So I think it's that being said, I think I feel if you go through their discography, it's not a diminishing of the heaviness that was there. I feel, which
Mm.
can be argued that Load was not
Yeah.
as heavy as that. But Load is also an album which I immensely enjoy because it has some really good songs, especially if you are into bands like Alice in Chains and stuff. Even a little bit of Corrosion of Conformity and those kind of bands, you will really find something to enjoy there. But even when they were recording it, I remember them coming out and saying like Soundgarden was a band that inspired them at
Hmm.
that point of time. Ulrich came out and said, because Ulrich
Yeah.
he's comes across as pretentious now, but he's also the most open-minded
Yeah.
of all four. Because if it was just left to Hetfield, he would have probably taken the Slayer way,
Yeah.
making the same album over and over again. But uh, I feel they were inspired by a lot of diverse artists. Like you had your AC/DC, you had your Thin Lizzies, which Hetfield brought to the table. But I also felt that because of the inspiration that these guys had, I mean, very famously, they were into REM. Because
Really?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, I didn't know that. Huh.
because I read it in Scott Ian's book that
Oh,
before he passed, when they were touring Europe, they gave, I think Scott and Cliff and Lars were listening to REM's Murmur.
okay.
So that was the kind of stuff, poser stuff, which they were in. So yeah, so that is what played into their songwriting as well, because even I mean, they rejected the excess, which 80s was becoming almost parody levels, and they ironically did it through Bob Rock.
Yeah, true. What did Bob Rock produced earlier? Bon Jovi, was it? Or Whitesnake?
Dr. Feelgood.
Ah, Motley. Yeah, okay.
Dr. Feelgood. So the
Yeah,
famous story is that I think someone from Q Management approached him, and Bob Rock
okay.
heard them, and he was driving through some neglected part of some desert, and he saw a homeless man wearing a Metallica t-shirt, and he was like, I don't want to take up this job, but
Hmm.
someone from the management had given him the assignment, and he said like, if these guys, he took it like as a sign, and he came to the studio, and before them, if you remember, no one challenged Hetfield and Ulrich.
Yeah.
Even now, no one challenges them,
Hmm.
sadly. But back then, no one challenged them because Rasmussen used to just mix,
Yeah.
and because they were at the cusp of being one of the biggest band of all
Hmm.
time. Uh, this fellow, he said like, okay, fine, I want to make you sound as huge live as you guys do, on the record as you do live. So
Yeah.
that is when all the experimentation came in.
Hmm.
That is the documentary essentially which you have to watch.
Yeah.
So I think that was very interesting, and they had a very very strong relationship, working relationship for the longest period, and it was weird considering that they never got along.
Yeah. Hmm.
Another thing I want to ask you, JK, is it was released in '91 and was just released before Nirvana's Nevermind came.
Yeah.
So even back in the day in India, in a city like Bangalore, was that divide growing?
Yeah, it was. No, but not in 91, I guess. But by about 94, 95, you could tell there were like the grunge kids and there were the metal kids.
Right, right.
Like the divide had really come in,
Started.
had started. Yeah, yeah. I think the one band that everyone could agree upon was Alice in Chains
Mm,
and maybe Soundgarden to a lesser extent. But Nirvana and Pearl Jam, like if you look at these four as the big four of grunge,
mm.
Nirvana and Pearl Jam were very, very polarizing. Yeah. In fact, not a very pleasant thing to say now, but when we got news that Cobain died, it was literally like one group of people celebrating and one group of people in mourning, right? So that divide was, yeah, very clear.
Right, and it was brought together by the fact that these guys were also never toured together.
Yeah,
And I remember Metallica, them being friends with Alice in Chains after a point, but even they took a lot of shots because these guys were also like hopped up on Metallica was alcohol, and these guys were hopped up on drugs.
yeah,
And so I think the only time when these streams converged was in '92. I think when the Clash of the Titans happened, where Alice in
huh,
Chains opened for
open. Yeah,
Anthrax, Slayer, and Megadeth, which famously Metallica refused to participate in.
yeah,
But if you look at it, just about the influence of it all as well. You, they I mean, every one, if you just have to open the 30th anniversary wala, the disc which they released, and you had 53 artists covering
Yeah.
the songs, so, and right from someone like say a Corey Taylor, right down to say a Ghost, or even like someone like a Miley Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Miley Cyrus, which was not a bad cover per se.
Yeah.
But
Mm,
it's a song which I personally do not enjoy much, except for the guitar solo.
yeah.
So the guitar solo is blazing, and I remember when they played this in Bangalore, the only time that they played in India,
Yeah.
fuck you Delhi. So I remember Hetfield going into that solo. I was bored out of my mind when that song was playing live as well. But when they played that solo, the entire stage was just white light, and we could just see
Okay.
the silhouette of
Uh-huh.
Hetfield just going into that solo, and it was just some insane stuff. It was
Oh,
just like, fantastic.
yeah.
So what we can do right now is let's go down to a track by track thing. We'll talk about each track. You can give me your thoughts, and maybe I can come in with mine as well. Let's start off
Yeah.
with the first one. Let's start off with Enter Sandman.
Enter Sandman. This was the first video as well, right? I think quite a
Yeah, yeah.
iconic heavy metal song. I mean, that opening riff, the then the verse, the chorus. I mean, yeah, there's really very little to say about this because it's so bloody iconic. It's overplayed to the point of uh, irritation sometimes,
Yeah.
but it's still, you can't deny the fact that it's a great song.
And
It's a
and they always said
fantastic
like it's like
opening.
a jet plane taking off with
Mm,
the drums kicking in and stuff like
yeah.
that. And I think Hammet came up with the riff in one of his riff tapes, and he wrote it like he was sleeping, and he woke up and he played the riff which plays uh, during the verses, and he brought it the next day to James, and James then came up with the iconic introduction, which was like the
Oh,
first time they used overdubs and stuff like that. Yeah, like
huh.
multi tracks,
Yeah.
and bringing in, which is a perfect lead up to one of the heaviest songs that Metallica has ever done, which
Mm,
is Sad But True.
sad but true. Yeah. Like super punchy and reasonably short, I guess, right? For Metallica. Or is
Yeah,
that just my, no, it's still about the same length as
no,
Enter
I mean
Sandman.
like yeah, five
5 minutes?
minutes ish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, again, just really heavy, crunchy, right? That
yeah,
song really made you want to like break stuff. And
yeah.
the mid-bass stomp also. Like I don't think that song ever really took off, but like really heavy, groovy, and killer chorus.
I think I think that was the closest they have come aside from that thing that should not be to creating like a very Sabbath type of song, something
Huh.
which they were very inspired by initially in their initial days as well. They toured with Ozzy famously, but I think that was a very Sabbath-esque song. And I remember James when it came out in one of the EPKs, the album EPKs, he mentions that that moves the air. And for the longest time, I didn't understand what it meant.
Mhm.
And then when I saw it live, you could see people like moving in waves, and that
Yeah.
was like how heavy it was because I was
Mhm.
standing like close to 20, 30 rows, uh, from
Back.
where they
Okay.
were playing. And you could still hear them hit it here. It
Hmm.
was that heavy. I don't know what they did with the mix or whatever, but it was so fucking insane. I mean, like, I can, one of the best gigs I've ever attended, even though the sound sucked, but I don't give a
Yeah.
shit. you know. So anyway, moving on to Holier Than Thou,
Holier than thou.
which I felt was like a throwback to that older stuff, which was
Mm.
heavy, fast. You had your double pedals going. It was like a proper thrash song, which ironically would have been their choice for their first single.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. That could have changed the entire trajectory of this album, no?
Yeah, I
'Cause-
think so, and it would have been a very disappointing album for many people as well because you're buying it to be a thrash album, and
yeah.
then you are getting you're
Hmm.
you're essentially getting songs like Enter Sandman and Sad But True.
Yeah.
with very few old school thrashy bits thrown here and then. But yeah, it's an interesting water situation.
Yeah, true.
But
But
they
yeah,
but
I
they
don't know.
did change it up. In the 30th anniversary release, I remember the first song which they released with the remastered version was Holier than Thou.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway,
Cool.
moving on to Unforgiven.
Yeah, absolute classic. I think one of their greatest songs ever. Incredibly emotional and I would say Hetfield at the peak of his vocal powers. Maybe he comes close to this kind of emotion on Low Man's lyric on
Yeah.
Reload,
Yeah.
but Unforgiven is just a unbelievably powerful song for me.
I think speaking of Hetfield's vocal prowess as well, I think that Load Reload. I don't think the man has sounded more venomous
Mhm.
during that tour. Ironic, but it is what it is. Because this downright side sounded like Hetfield sounded like a maniac in if you see cunning stunts and stuff from
Uh-huh.
that era. He's downright. It was probably the alcohol or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. I mean, it was like an emotional high point of that album, especially if you see the lyrics. You still don't know what it's about or who it's about. Uh, James has said in many instances that it is semi-autobiographical. But yeah, and I think that is the beauty of it because most of the lyrics are not very pointed, especially in
yeah,
this era. So it can be many things. And speaking about vocal prowess, I think there's a lot of stuff from Load, and I think there's a particular song which I love of Reload called Fixer. Uh,
yeah.
I think
Mm.
that is for me the peak of James Hetfield doing this kind of vocals because Fixer is just one of my favorite Metallica songs of all time, which leads us to my favorite song of this album, Wherever I May Roam.
Huh. Yeah. You know, the cassette didn't have the intro, right? It started off directly with the song, like that whole.
Da 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 da.
Yeah, that was like when I finally heard it on CD, that was a big surprise. But yeah, again, fantastic song. Just how many classics here this album has got.
Yeah,
In a way, now I'm beginning to think of it sort of like Sabbath's Master of Reality.
exactly,
No?
exactly. Because first four albums, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a bad song. First five albums, I
Yeah.
think you can. I mean, I can count in one hand, one finger, the one song which I do not enjoy, which it's an instant skip for me is Strapped Under Ice.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't like it.
Mm.
I just don't get it. But yeah, but aside from Trapped Under Ice, I every single track is a non-skip, and
Yeah.
that is insane amount of consistency and quality put together by people who are like not even in their 30s yet.
Yeah.
And when I find people saying like oh, Metallica is and all that, that is just a laughable notion. Show me another band with so much consistency
Yeah. True.
at that point. I mean, yeah, sure, but Metallica, Maiden, Beast, these are of different gravy. Sabbath, like different types of bands.
Yeah.
Coming back to Wherever I May Roam, I think uh, one fun fact about this song is that song starts with that crack, right? Do
How?
you know how they did that?
How?
With a 12 string bass.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I have this making of the album, the VH1 thing, which they started releasing in as DVDs. So I have that album, and there in the bonus section, that is where this guy says that it's not a sitar. I mean, it's not any other instrument. It's a 12 string bass which Newstead does, and I think this is also a showcase for Jason Newstead. Uh, this album, he especially live, he just
Mm.
elevated an already deadly band with
Yeah.
his vocal approach, with his energy, with and his entire presence. They look like badasses up on stage, and that
Mm.
guy with a mohawk, and he's not standing there and just doing and expecting people to just him do a Cliff Burton cosplay.
Yeah.
Because Cliff Burton was not very dynamic on stage. He was an
Mm.
excellent player, but he was just doing his thing, and he was just so charismatic. This guy
Yeah.
would like grab you by the scruff of your neck and say like, "Pay attention to me." So that was just some insane stuff. And I don't think any other band, aside from Steve Harris and your legendary people like, your Lemmys of the world,
Yeah.
command that stage to a degree
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
these guys
True.
do. Speaking of commanding the stage, another favorite, fan favorite rather, is "Don't Tread on Me."
Huh.
A very defiant patriotic track.
So this is the maybe the one song on the album that doesn't always work for me. I don't know what
No,
it is about this song, but um, I think it's just the way he's goes. Don't tread on me.
all right,
Don't.
right, right.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but yeah, this was one song that it's still a good song, but not at the same level for me as the rest of the album. So yeah, you go for it.
No, so mine for this also has one badass line which I had written in the back of my notebook.
Mhm.
To attain peace is to prepare for war.
Huh.
So back when I was like a 12, 13-year-old, that should seem to be like the most insane Hetfield speaking to my soul.
Mhm.
So those are the kind of Hetfieldisms, like, the
Yeah.
jingoistic America, fuck yeah, patriotism, like
Mhm.
with that shit going down,
Mhm.
the airplanes flying and bears with
Yeah.
waving American flags. That kind of stuff is what is exuded with this, but doesn't take away from the fact that it's a killer song. And the best part about this song is towards the end, after the solo, where Hetfield's vocals, he does like a kind of a interplay with Hammett's guitar solo,
Mhm.
where he's barking out the vocals and there's a guitar riff which plays in the background. That's also insane. And speaking of insane, I think you love this song. So do I. Through the Never.
Yeah. Absolutely. This was there's a sense of darkness to this song, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the darkest on this album, and
No, I don't
no,
think so. But we'll come to the darkest song after in a bit. But yeah, please go ahead.
okay, but yeah, killer. I mean, just deadly riffs on this one. Uh, Hetfield sounds quite rabid. Like this is
Yeah.
almost Ride the Lightning style uh, Hetfield, and yeah, just a great song.
Through the Never, my favorite part is the song starts off, it's melting your face, it's pummeling you to dust, and all of a sudden it just slows down.
Hmm.
And then Hetfield barks. It's like almost like a call to war kind of scene, where he's just barking orders, twisting, turning through the
Hmm.
never. So that's some essential stuff. And again, you don't know what the fuck he's talking about,
Yeah.
you know, because he's going on and on about some shit. It's existential, maybe Lovecraftian. You never know, but you believe it. You want to go to war for this man because
Mhm.
you don't know what the fuck is going on. So I think that is has been a highlight for me whenever I listen to Metallica. Because half of the stuff I don't understand what he's talking about. It's just that lyrics I know. I just chant it out, but I don't
Yeah.
know what the fuck they're talking about. Exception being the next song, which is Nothing Else Matters, which obviously is an ode to his wife.
Huh. Oh, it's a note to his wife. Really?
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So essentially, I think they wrote it. He wrote it in some hotel room
Okay.
because he was just burnt out by touring, and that is when he says that. And I think as much as I dislike the song because I genuinely feel, and I know this is like a personal thing, I genuinely feel it breaks the album.
Hmm.
Someone like an Elton John or a Tony Iommi would disagree because they want the albums to be spaced out famously.
Yeah.
But I felt that this is, despite my misgivings, it is a very, very vulnerable track, which I think is caught everyone by surprise. Like
Yeah.
these
Agree.
guys, these so-called bad boys, and these men with so much machismo and all, singing about stuff like this, especially in a genre like thrash.
Yeah. No, but now that you mention it, right, I think the sequencing is fantastic because through
Yeah.
the never directly to Off Wolf and Man,
Mm.
no, I think this does a really good job of just breaking that momentum a little bit. And
Yeah,
going off into a completely different direction. I mean, it's
yeah,
a fantastic song. My only problem with it is that it's overplayed to death, and it's the song that a lot of normies know Metallica by. Right?
yeah,
So, but apart from that, and it's also a gateway for a lot of normies. Like this is how my dad got into Metallica because of this song. Like now he
nice.
listens to everything, but
Yeah,
yeah, I blame Nothing Else Matters for it. But
right.
yeah, great song. Just especially in India, I think it's I don't know, maybe it's like worldwide, but here though it's overplayed to death.
I mean, there's a reason why this album went like some 16 times platinum,
Yeah. Hmm.
you know, and it is on, while Nothing Else Matters is overplayed, and I completely agree with you. Like I said, I didn't enjoy the song back then also. I enjoy the song now. I honestly do not like the elevator version, the famous Michael Kamen, only Michael Kamen with Metallica version as well. So I've heard like the all the versions of the song, and I still don't like it. Aside from the guitar solo, which I feel is because it's Hetfield playing, he brings in that kind of bite, because I think Hammet's playing is always a little bit more flashy.
Mm.
It has that Noabum touches to it. It has that. I won't say it's. He brings in that war factor also. But Hetfield's guitar playing was always more grounded, more technical, and a little bit more visceral, which I think this solo is. It doesn't fuck around. It just goes directly
Yeah.
straight to the point. It aims to hit you right
Mm.
between the eyes, and then it brings it back. It mellows down, and then that's that whispered vocal, which I think is a fantastic touch. And that is these are the things which I think someone like a Bob Rock brought to the
Yeah.
table.
Mm.
These whispered vocals, and then during I think the next song, God That Failed, which we'll talk about now, he brings in the aspect of that shotgun loading,
Ah.
the very famous clip of Hetfield shooting off and
Yeah.
recording that stuff. So stuff like that, and this is the song by recording in which he lost his voice. It's an ode to his Christian Scientist faith, or rather his uh, denouncing of it, because he lost
Okay.
his mother, I think, to that.
Okay. Okay.
So did you know this?
No, no, I didn't know this. Mhm.
So essentially, what happened was his mother died, and they were Christian scientists. They were raised Christian
Okay.
scientists, and no one allowed. And as per their faith, you're supposed to leave it to God, and you're not supposed to get medical help.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Huh.
So hence the God that faith.
Mm.
Again, a very personal,
Yeah.
raw. You can feel that grief inside,
Mm.
and he brings in all of those elements, and the production is just insane. Your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah. Terrific song. I didn't know about the backstory, which now puts it in some new perspective for me. But yeah, really great song. I remember shouting along to the chorus and the song title, and my mom getting more and more pissed off with this. But uh, yeah, I mean, great song.
Yeah. Then we come to The Wolf and Man, which I think is a song which is more akin to, and I think at more closer to their contemporaries,
Yeah.
lyrically
Mm.
at least, than what they usually did. It brings in that element of fantasy again, and it speaks about fucking werewolves. It's a song about
Werewolves, right?
werewolves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very depth. It doesn't have a lot of lyrical depth, but what it has is just badass riffs.
Yeah.
It's just badass riffs, and it's again another standout moment for Jason Newstead, who uh, who is co-vocals on this. That entire middle section is just him, where he goes shape shift. There's some great stuff. It's
Yeah.
absolute masterful
I'd,
stuff.
I'd say this is one of my favorite Metallica deep cuts. Yeah. Just a really, really catchy song, really thrashy song, and really to the point as well. So no fucking around with this one. And again, a nice dark feel to it. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
really good
One thing
stuff.
which we've mentioned thus far. I mean, we yet to discuss the last song. I think all of these songs were heavy, accessible, and they were dark. They were not, you know, what
Yeah,
people think selling out is.
mhm.
You write very pop, accessible music, which doesn't talk, which is not lyrically in depth or musically non-complex. This is while not as complex as most of their older material, this is some very dark shit that is being said through all of these albums.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the sellout thing basically came from, yeah, like you said, right? Nothing else matters
Yeah.
because that was the ballad. A lot of people had problems with Unforgiven also because it was
Dude,
slowish.
people have problems with Fade to Black.
That's also there. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. I think they've been getting sellout accusations from their second album, only, come to think of it.
Yeah.
But, uh, but yeah, I mean, there is quite a bit of like this through line of darkness in the lyrics and the production for all of the shine or the sheen that Bob Rock bought. I
Mm.
think it also maintains that bit of darkness
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
right? Like it never comes across as like a happy album, if you will.
Yeah. I think that can be said about Load and Reload as
Hmm. Yeah,
well. And I think that was also has to do with a lot of what was going on around them. If you remember, this was the Gulf War. You know,
yeah,
they were in a they were in a bit of an economic slump as well, and obviously the societal, the Gen X being disaffected, Rodney King happening right in LA. So I thought that translated really well, and especially a band which was speaking about all of these topics. They were speaking about racial topics earlier. They were talking about being disaffected, being anti-war famously, being anti-nuclear, all of that stuff. So
yeah.
all of that played into them being, and any which way, these guys are generally very morose motherfuckers. so, I thought that played a major role in this album being the way it is, and rather Load and Reload also, which is why I think Load especially has like a lot of replay value. Uh, I think personally for
Sure.
me, because yes, the album is not as heavy, but it has that inherent darkness. It has that very somber tone. And while you have stuff like your Mama Saids of the world, you
Mhm.
also have stuff like King Nothing.
Yeah,
It's just heavy as fuck. Anyway, moving on without digressing, I think the last song of this album is Struggle Within.
struggle with it.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, it's again a very fast, old school throwback kind of a song. I think we've missed one, but we'll come back to that later. The second last song, rather, is The Struggle Within. Again, a song whose lyrics make no fucking sense. Uh, you can interpret it as struggle within, like quite literally, or talking about the world in general, up to your interpretation, which I think most great songs should be. Your thoughts?
yeah. I always thought of it as some kind of existential internal struggle, but
Yeah,
uh, yeah, again, just really catchy. The number of hooks on this album, no, it's like uh, very unusual for a thrash metal band, I guess.
yeah.
And I mean, that was the band itself, right? It couldn't have been Bob Rock.
Anyone
Maybe
else?
he uh, made them or focused it into your verse, chorus, verse kind of format.
Mm,
But to write so many hooks, so many catchy choruses over like what, 50 minutes, 55
yeah,
minutes, it's just
yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, there is no fat here in this album
Yeah.
if you look at it.
Mm.
I mean, if you discount Nothing Else Matters,
Yeah.
there is absolutely no fat in this album. No song overstays its welcome. And one song, and this is also famously the only album which does not have an instrumental.
Yeah.
I mean, Justice for All had a quasi instrumental with one
Hmm.
verse thrown in to Live Is to Die, but I think this is the instrumental in this song in this album was supposed to be My Friend of Misery,
Oh,
which
okay.
yeah. So My Friend of Misery is the only song which Jason Newstead wrote, and he was
Uh-huh.
kind of pissed off about the fact that they didn't want to give him the shine because they were still recovering from
Mm.
Cliff's passing. It was, you have to remember, it was like just 4 years removed.
Yeah.
When they started recording this.
Mm.
So yeah, fuck. Just imagine, dude. Like 4 years removed for me, it's like another lifetime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, just 4 years removed from his death. And yeah, so that is when that entire, if you look at it, I think they've played like a couple of versions of it live as well. It's very hard to, I know it's not very hard to get, but very hard to get good quality of it. With the actual instrumental version with Hetfield being very drunkenly saying something on the vocals, but you could see where that song was going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, this was also the only album, and the only song since till say I think some stuff on Hardwired to Self-Destruct that they did something which was progressive. I think this was the only song that had uh, that shade of progressiveness going in the song.
Yeah. True. But really, really, yeah, I think progressive is a good, what do you call it? Shout out for this. Yeah. And probably the longest song on the album also.
Yeah, I think it's
Probably. Yeah.
no, I think yeah, it would be this or Nothing Else Matters, either of these
Uh-huh.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct. But uh, yeah, quite a good song. I didn't know that Newstead wrote this though. I thought it
yeah,
was all Hetfield and
Ulrich.
Ulrich for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, Newstead actually has like a lot of contributions in this
Hmm.
in his time at Metallica.
Yeah.
It's really underrated as both as a bass player and a songwriter. But I think it was almost a case of him going through filtering his ideas through Hetfield and Ulrich, because they are master arrangers. I mean, Ulrich
Yeah.
might be a mediocre drummer now, but he still can arrange a very good track. So yeah, it's a and I think just to conclude and tie a knot on this conversation, I think this is the it album, or rather, of the entire thrash scene. Of what was after this, what became. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people will argue about the fact that a lot of albums came after this which were like great, which were heavy,
Hmm.
but the scene before the Black Album was completely different
Yeah.
than what happened after it, because that
Yeah.
became like such a focal point and a
Mhm.
conversation starter and a measuring stick, so as to say.
Yeah. True. Yeah. I think the culmination of the entire
Yeah.
scene, or maybe like the previous 10 years or so. 10 years? Yeah. Yeah, right?
81, yeah,
81,
yeah,
81
81,
to
yeah,
91. Yeah.
yeah,
10 years. But yeah, that's a good point, I would say. Because after this, yeah, like we said right at the beginning, I think the rest of the big four wanted that big hit as well. Other bands went off into different directions. And, but yeah, man, just a fantastic album.
yeah. And it's good about like this being like the era defining album,
Hmm.
considering that what happened, the tour which happened, uh, a thrash metal tour not featuring Metallica, but the tour which happened, which was Clash of the Titans in '92, I think that brought the entire thing to a close, because
Yeah.
that is when Alice in Chains hit big. That
Hmm.
is when Pearl Jam hit big with Versus, and then Nirvana
Yeah.
came in, Stone Temple Pilots took off. So the entire scene changed. And then in the mid '90s, you had your extreme metal
Yeah.
become like really popular from '94
Hmm.
on. You had your second British invasion coming. So the entire scene changed. So this, when you are transported back in time, you listen to it, and then then you see all of these things come after this. It puts everything into a lot more perspective, and it just makes you realize like how influential this album actually was. I
Yeah.
mean, to be on the Billboard's 200 for 750 weeks, that's some insane shit. That's some Pink
Yeah.
Floyd level stuff.
Hmm.
And this was like a thrash metal band doing.
Yeah. That's true. Is this the, yeah, I think this is probably the moment when proper metal went mainstream, right?
Yeah,
Is it not like your hair metal or the glam rock thing, which was
yeah,
also huge like 5 years
yeah,
before this? But yeah, proper metal, I think just breaking down and going into the mainstream, yeah, I think this was that one
yeah.
defining
And
moment.
they also tried to engineer it to a degree, which failed spectacularly, because after they won their Grammy, the second biggest band, or maybe at an equal stature, was Guns N' Roses.
Hmm.
If you remember, same year or a
Yeah.
year separated, Guns N' Roses released Use Your Illusion.
Yeah,
and they very famously had to go. They went on tour, which
yeah.
ended up in disastrous results. But
Yeah,
yeah, uh, that is one show I would have loved to watch, man.
yeah.
Fuck,
Yeah,
3 hours, no
Metallica.
music, people. This Metallica playing, going
Mm,
off stage. Guns N' Roses not showing up for 3 hours.
yeah,
People burning LA down. Some wild stuff. That tour. But yeah, but good to see that these guys have actually made amends, and they've been on the same bill famously very recently
yeah,
at the Aussie gig. But yeah, amazing album. Your cult listeners out there, your cult cards will not go away if you like this album. Trust me on this. I say this as a black metal fan, and GK says this as someone who is as steeped into doom as he is. Yeah, give it another shot. It's a great fucking album.
yeah, absolutely. I'd say one of the most iconic albums in metal, and honestly, something that uh, every metalhead should uh, listen to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think aspiring songwriters should
Oh,
listen
yeah,
to this,
definitely. Yeah.
especially if you're writing for a heavy band, a
Hmm.
metal band. How to write is is stuff which you can take from here, because this is like nuclear precision of
Yeah,
laser focused precision of getting things right. And they spent years and years of molding this on the road. One thing that doesn't get said enough, I feel, when it comes to Metallica, is how hardworking they are. I
yeah,
think everyone takes it for granted because holy shit, because you are born like, at least I was born into this world where Metallica were actually huge, already huge. But if you speak to people who are older than, I think, me and you as well, you will find people who will tell you like how hardworking these guys were. They're still touring like some 200 shows
yeah,
a year, yeah,
mm,
like 65-year-olds.
yeah.
Some insane work ethic. Sadly, it doesn't
Thanks.
reflect in their current albums, but yeah, yeah.
If they'd, I don't know, if Bob Rock could have convinced them to just cut out all the fat and put Load and Reload as one 50-minute album, it would have been fantastic.
Yeah,
Because there's some amazing songs there.
yeah.
But yeah, and after that, what came after Reload?
After Reload was Saint Anger.
Oh yeah, okay. Saint Anger, I don't know. Give it the same kind of remix or whatever as the Black Album and see what it sounds like.
The sounds it would not sound great because I've
Hmm.
heard a lot of people remix it.
Okay.
You know, the problem is the music is, it's them trying to, because see, at that point, I feel, even if you watch Some Kind of Monster, these guys became like the parody rock stars. They
Yeah,
became everything they parodied. So I felt that it was like a garage band, trying to it's like we're putting the band back together, dude, kind of a
yeah,
scenario, where they're still finding themselves. They were dealing with internal problems. They had Napster to deal with, which makes Lars look like a fucking prophet in this day and age.
yeah,
Hetfield was struggling with his marriage, struggling with his
mm,
addictions. He had mental health issues, and Newstead just left.
yeah,
So they were a band on the verge of breaking up.
mm.
But yeah, I think they got that mojo back. I genuinely feel it's a very good album. Is Hard White to Sylvester. I think that is a
Okay.
genuinely good album.
Yeah.
Especially the last track, man, fucking Spit Out the Bone. Holy shit!
Hmm.
I heard that song for the first time. I had like goosebumps. I was like, holy fuck!
Yeah,
Double
that
pedal.
was a
Yeah, that was a
return to
killer
form.
track.
Yeah,
Face melter. Like, and he did that for like 9 minutes. Just
yeah,
non-stop blasts. Sadly, they don't play that live. Obviously, they
huh,
can't. But yeah, it is what it is.
yeah.
Anyway, so GK, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Always good talking about these things, and we shall catch up soon for another topic.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for watching. Like, share, subscribe, blah blah, do all that good shit. And cheers. Stay safe. Stay metal.